Hey everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you are here. Today is seed starting day. If you are new here, I'm doing a seed starting challenge leading up to the garden season. And for me, I'm in zone 7 in the state of Tennessee, and it is 8 weeks before my last frost date. So if you're new here, go ahead and say hello down in the comments. Let me know what state, city, or country you're coming in from so I can say hello back. Now, y'all, this video is going to be a little bit different today because today I'm not actually starting seeds because I'm not at home. But I did not want the week to go by and for any of you guys who are depending on me to say, okay, what should we be starting 8 weeks before the last frost date? I wanted to do the video anyway. So I'm going to go through, if I were home, what I will be starting this week, and this is exactly what I'm going to be doing when I actually do get home. So if you're brand new to my channel, my name is Barbara. I live in Tennessee, but right now I'm in Florida. So my daughter is moving. For those who've been around, you know my daughter has moved to Florida, and so I've been on mommy duty helping her to get settled, moved down here, and situated. I was supposed to be back home by now, but we had some issues or delays with the movers, and so I'm having to stay an additional week, which means I'm not at home to start my seeds. Now, mommy heart is perfectly okay with that. Farmer heart is like, okay, I'm not there to start my seeds, but you know what? It's going to be a-okay. And so I want to walk through. So even though you won't see me physically starting the seeds, we're going to still go over the same information that I would every single week. So again, if this is your first video or your first video on the seed starting challenge, let me explain to you what that means. And so every single week I am starting seeds. I started at week 11. There is a playlist that you can look up here. And if you want to catch up, you're more than welcome to do that. And it does not matter that you're not in my zone. It does not matter if you're not in the state of Tennessee. You can still participate in the challenge. I'm challenging you to start seeds every single week, now up until the time when it's time to plant them out in your summer garden. Now for me, I'm in zone 7B. And so right now we're 8 weeks before our last frost date. Our estimated last frost date is around April the 20th. And so we're 8 weeks before that. Now you may be ahead of me, you may be behind me, but no matter where you are, whenever you hit your 8 week mark, or if you've already passed it, these are the things that you should have been starting, or it should be on your list to start. And so one of the things that I want to talk about today, I always try to go over like a seed starting tip or topic. And then I'll also show you my my seedlings and how they fared from the last time we planted up until now. I'm still going to do that. And then also we'll talk about what we're planting. So typically, again, on the seed starting videos, you see me, filling my soil up. You see me putting the seeds down. You see all the things. And again, I usually just, speed time lapse that or voice it over because you guys have seen me start seeds many times. So the gist or the gold of the video is really me talking through what to start and why. And so although you won't physically see me in my greenhouse starting the seeds today, trust and believe that when I get home, I will. Now, question, if for some reason, if you want, like when I get home, I'm actually going to actually start my seeds just the way I told you. If you want me to do another video, week 8/2, let me know. I will do that for you because I know that sometimes people have to connect visually as well as verbally. But hear my words about what you should be starting this week on week 8. Now, let me talk about a particular seed starting topic that I want to talk about today that will help you in your seed starting journey. And again, so what I want to talk about today is kind of knowing when to uppot and also when to fertilize. Now, if you are ahead of me, meaning that you're already past your 8 week mark, this is definitely for you. If you're with me, this is your 8 week mark or very similar, then this is for you. If you're behind me, then this is what you have to look forward to, right? So right around this time, if you are, I would say between 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date, you need to start thinking about, and your seedlings may be giving you signs that either it's time to fertilize and to uppot. So let's first talk about fertilization. So if you started your seeds in a seed starting mix, meaning the bag said seed starting mix, keep in mind that that seed starting mix does not have any nutrients in it. It is just a very loose, fluffy soil medium to get your seeds to germinate quickly. It does that very well, but it has 0 nutrients. So if you started with that, you should already be fertilizing your seeds. What I recommend is some type of liquid worm casting or a fish emulsion. And you want to do it at a quarter of the rate that you would if you were out in your garden, meaning you don't want to do it full strength. Why? Because your seedlings are babies, okay? Just like you wouldn't give your newborn, table food at 3 weeks, you don't give your plants, a whole lot of fertilizer at that one time. So if you started with a seed starting mix, then you definitely, after usually a couple of weeks, you want to start feeding your seeds, your seedlings some nutrition via fish emulsion or like a liquid worm casting is typically what I use. Now, if you started your seeds in a potting mix, which is what I do, it already has some nutrients built in. So I usually do not start fertilizing my seedlings until about 4 or 5 weeks in. So for me, that will be right around this time or next week, okay? And how do I gauge that? How do I know that? Well, one, I've been doing it. And two, I know that, the potting mix is going to give me, I would say, a good 4 to 6 weeks of nutrients, right? But then also, you have to think about and look at your seedlings. For those of you that make bread, they always say, don't watch the time, watch the dough. That means once you get familiar with how dough operates, once you get familiar with how dough is supposed to feel, you don't worry so much about, okay, it said it has to rise 45 minutes. Let me look. Okay, it's minute 44. It's probably not ready. No, you just look at the dough and you just know it's ready, right? It's the same thing when it comes to your seedlings. As you become accustomed to starting seeds, as you become accustomed to knowing what they're supposed to look like, you will start to see signs that it needs to be fertilized, right? Especially if you started in a smaller, like a soil block or a 6-cell seed starting tray, you will start to see maybe a little yellowing on your leaves. You may start to see that it takes it longer to hydrate, meaning you keep moisten it, but you're having to moisten it more frequently. Those are signs that it needs to be fertilized. But even if you don't see those signs, if they have been in those pots for at least 4 to 5 weeks, then it's time to at least give it a boost of fertilization. Now for me, I do that once a week. Once I start, and again, keep in mind, I'm doing the seedlings that have been there for 4 or 5 weeks. So what that means is, for me, I would do the seedlings that I started way back at week 11, right? Now, when I start my seeds, let's say I was starting seeds today, I wouldn't fertilize those seeds. I would fertilize those seeds 4 weeks from now. I hope that makes sense. So you're not doing all of your seeds, but you're backing up and doing the ones that are the oldest to the most recent. By the time it's time to go out into your garden, then you're fertilizing everything, because everything is pretty much has been established for quite some time, or at least at the minimum 2 weeks, okay? So I want you to think about fertilization and do not miss that step. Again, I use a liquid worm casting or I use fish emulsion, okay? I have a fish emulsion down in my Amazon shop. You can certainly get that. Next, let's talk about uppotting, because some of you are at the point where you may need to uppot. Again, if you are behind me, meaning you're not even at the 8-week mark, you don't have to be concerned about uppotting, because there's probably nothing for you to uppot. But if you are ahead of me, this is probably around the time that you may start seeing signs that you need to uppot, especially if you're growing something that's going to be for your summer garden. Now, up until this point, for me, I've grown or started mostly herbs and flowers. And so herbs take a long time to grow, like eucalyptus, lavender. Like those things don't need to be uppotted because they're growing very, very slowly. But one of the things that you'll see today is that I did do some lettuce, I think 2 weeks ago, and I did it in a 6-cell tray. Lettuce grows pretty fast, right? And so for me, I have a decision. I can either uppot my lettuce, or I can actually go ahead and put it in my garden because it's a cool season crop, right? But let's just say the temperatures were too low in my area and I'm not quite ready to put it out, then I would uppot it. How do you know when it's time to uppot? And if you don't know what uppotting means, it's very simply you take it from one pot to a bigger pot, right? You're giving it more space, more space, so that it has more space for the roots to grow. So you don't want it to get what we call root bound. And even though you may be using those 6-cell trays that have the slits on the side, of course it's air pruning, so it's not going to get root bound, but you want to make sure that you're giving it space to grow. And so how do you know when it's time to uppot? 1, how long has it been in the pot? 2, look at the plant and seed. Is it yellowing? Is the growing becoming stagnant? That would be a sign that it's time to uppot. So those are the 2 things that I want you to be paying attention to, especially if you are ahead of me or right in line, is fertilization and uppot. Make sure you have that on your radar because, again, for many of us, we still have a good 6 to 8 weeks before we can put things out in our summer garden, okay? If you have questions about that, put that down below. Now, let's talk about how my seedlings are doing from the time that we started them up until now. Now, y'all, I have not laid eyes on my seedlings in over a week, right? And so I had my family do some video shots of my seedlings. I have somebody taking care of them, you know, and so, but again, you know, nobody can take care of them like mama can take care of them. But anyway, I'm grateful for the help. So I'm going to insert that footage right here. I will tell you, some of it is hard to see as well because again I have somebody else videoing for me, but I will show you and talk through it the best way that I know how. But I will know for a fact how my seedlings are doing when I put my eyes on them. But overall, this is what I would say. Overall, they're doing good. I see many places where I don't have germination, and so we'll talk through that, but let me insert that footage right here. Okay, guys, so this is the tray from last week at the 9-week mark, except what you see on the left-hand side. So on the left-hand side is the lettuce. We actually started that at 10 weeks. But then over here, as you go to the right side, you can see that I have some germination. It is spotty. In this row, we have yarrow, we have some status, and we also have a couple of lemon balm. So that's the yarrow right there. It looks like we have perfect germination in the yarrow bucket. In the middle here, I can't tell what that is, and I can't read the tag on that, so I apologize. I think this right here is status. As you can see, there is some germination, but it's not completely full. But for this particular tray that we did at 9 weeks, most of it takes anywhere from 10 to 14 days, so we still have a little bit of time to see if it's going to germinate. Up there at the top, we have some germination there, which is good. And then over to the left is the lettuce, which looks great. So this lettuce is actually 2 weeks old versus 1 week old. We had started this tray before we did the 9-week. And these are 3 varieties from actually Vego garden seeds that they sent me. So there's a butter crunch, a salad bowl mix, and then another kind of mix. But that lettuce is looking good. And this is a perfect example of uppotting. Like, you can tell the lettuce kind of is outgrowing that little 6 cell. So it is a perfect time to uppot. But what I will do is when I get back, I will actually just let it get a little bit bigger and then just go ahead and put it in straight into my garden. But you can see how it's flopping over on the side, has a little yellowing. So that tells me it needs fertilization and more space. Now, this is the first tray that we did. So this is the tray that we did at 11 weeks. So at this point, it is 3 weeks old. If you look at an overall view, we have mostly germination here. You can see that some things are bigger than another. This is lavender, the ones that you see that are more established. That's deal right there. Then as you keep going up, that is more lavender. So overall, the lavender has done really, really well. All of this in the middle is eucalyptus. There is some germination that you can see there popping up. Eucalyptus can take up to 21 days. And so that could be a challenge if you're waiting for it to be quick. You just have to kind of give it some time. But overall, this tray does have mostly germination. Some of it is so small that you can't see. But like I said, I'll get a better picture once I arrive back home. Hey guys, so you can see that I do have some good germination. So the things that we started 3 weeks ago at week 11, most of that tray is filling in, right? On the second tray, you see I have the lettuce that had popped up, but I still have some spotty germination there. And then on the third tray, I have my cilantro is doing well, and I have some spotty germination. Now, what I can't see because of the way of the angle of the video per se, you know how sometimes you can't see it if you're way up here, but if you get your eyes on down there, you can see, oh, I see something coming. And so I'm going to pray and hope that where I don't see anything, that there is something coming, right? Because for most of the things in that third tray, they still have about 4 or 5 days left, so to speak, before I would say, you should have popped up by now. Because remember, we talked about in a previous video about germination rate. Everything does not germinate within 2 to 3 days. Like my lettuce popped up in 2 to 3 days, but it can take your eucalyptus, your eucalyptus, your lavender to take up to 14 or 21 days. And basically, everything does not germinate at the same rate. So I don't want to jump to conclusions or jump too fast, and I want you to do the same thing. Make sure that you know the germination rate. And again, once I get back at my house and can put my eyes on it, that I can see if something is actually there or popping up. But I do have, I would say, more than what I expected to not be germinated at this point. But again, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not there. And you know what I'm going to do about it when I get there? And if there's nothing there that has germinated, then I'm just going to start some more seeds, right? I'm just going to start some more seeds. And so you may say, well, man, you're going to be behind. Well, yes and no. I mean, you can say I'm behind because maybe if I have to restart it, if I was planning on starting my petunias at, let's say, the 9-week mark, and now when I get back, it's the 7-week mark. Yeah, but I have a long growing season in my area, and so it may not be ideal or what I planned for, but I'm still within the range. I'm still within where it makes sense for me to restart it. Does that make sense? And I want to, again, I'm in zone 7B. I have a long growing season, like 180 days. And so if those petunias don't pop up to July instead of June, it's not really gonna matter for me, right? So you have to know your growing season and know how long your growing season is, to know whether or not you should be concerned. But I would say for the most part, not much to be concerned about. Now, let's get to the business about what you should be starting at week 8. Now, y'all, week 8 is by far my biggest seed starting week. So when I get home, I'm going to have plenty to do, right? Plenty to do. Am I feeling a little behind? I am feeling a little behind just because it's the biggest week. Not behind in terms of, oh my goodness, my stuff is not going to grow properly or things like that. It's just the weight of, you got a lot to do because you've been gone. That's the kind of weight that I have on me. But you know what? It is what it is. And that's gardening is not supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to be life-giving, liberating, and freedom and all that. And sometimes our personal lives may have to take the front seat, or always take the front seat, maybe. And the gardening is going to be there when we get there. And so gardens are resilient. And so I'm talking to you as much as I'm talking to myself. Okay, so let's talk about what I would be starting if I was at home. It's my biggest week. And the reason is because it's pepper week, y'all. I start my peppers at 8 weeks before the last frost date, and you should do the same thing too. Now for me, I start peppers at week 8 and week 7. And I split them in between. I start my greenhouse peppers. So my peppers is going to go in my greenhouse. I start those on week 8. Peppers is going to go out in my outside garden. I start those week 7. And then I use week 6 as what I call a cleanup. So anything that did not germinate well or I don't have enough of, I'm taking inventory. And at week 6, I'm starting more peppers that I need that did not fill the gaps on week 8 and 7. So for you, depending on the space of your garden, you may start all your peppers this week. But peppers is 8 weeks before. Now, tomatoes I start usually 7 and 6 weeks before the last frost date. If you look at your package, typically it's going to say peppers 8 weeks, tomatoes 6 weeks. And 6 weeks to me is a really good sweet spot because by the time, if I start them any earlier than like that 7-week mark, they are way overgrown and they need to be in the ground. Okay. And so we talked about this last week is don't get so ahead of yourself that you're like, I'm starting my peppers, 11 weeks ahead of time. I wouldn't do that if I were you, especially if you don't have a greenhouse where you can start things or put them out earlier, especially if you're in a zone, I would say 8 and below. Right? I think in Florida where I am, you guys are like a zone 9 or whatever. You growing peppers out like all year round. So that doesn't apply to you. But for the rest of us, 8 weeks ahead of time are peppers. The other things that you can start at 8 weeks ahead of time is eggplant. And so I would be starting my eggplant this week. Also, Swiss chard is another one that's at the 8-week mark. Calendula is another herb or flower that you can start at the 8-week mark. Chamomile. If you're doing chamomile, this is the week to start your chamomile. So you got your peppers, your Swiss chard, your eggplant, your chamomile, and your calendula. The other items is your sage. So sage, again, is an herb that does not grow literally as slow as like your oregano or your thyme. So that's why we did not start it back at the 11 and 12-week mark when we did those other things. But sage is a good time to start now. That's another one to put on your 8-week list. Also, straw flower, if you grow that flower, that's a great one to add to your list as well. So there's quite a few things. And again, for me, peppers are the biggest thing because I grow a ton of peppers. I don't know how many pepper plants I have. Usually I would say somewhere probably between 60 to 75 pepper plants. Now, one of the other things that I actually did this year, and I'll show you when I get back home, is that where I keep my seeds, I began to separate, because I have a large seed collection now and I'm doing a lot of peppers. I separated between sweet peppers and spicy peppers, greenhouse peppers, outside peppers, right? And so I have all of that set and ready for me to go when I get home. But those are the things. I'll run through them one more time. Peppers, sage, straw flower, chamomile, calendula, eggplant, Swiss chard. Also, one that I forgot is lemon balm. Now, I started my lemon balm last week at week 9. And again, that was just to give me a head start. And it looks like I only have a few lemon balm that have germinated. So you best believe that if they're not popping up when I get back, I'm going to start it again, right? I'm going to start it again. So remember, we talked about in last week's video, there is a range of time when you can start seeds. But those are all the things that you should be focused on and thinking about at week 8, okay? At week 8. So I hope that this was helpful, even though I'm not at home. Look, y'all, I'm a trooper. Okay, I'm gonna give you the information. I don't care where I am. You getting this information? There is no excuse. There is no excuse. And actually, I've been in Florida and absolutely loving it because Florida agrees with me. I love me some Florida. Okay, and this is the first day that it's actually Florida chilly, okay? So that's why I have on a jacket. But the weather has been absolutely beautiful. Today, I think the high is going to be like 60. So all the Floridians is like, oh my goodness, it's so cold. I'm like, just put on a light jacket. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So, but the sun is shining. So anyway, I have to run. I got to go back on mommy duty. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. If you have questions, put them down below. I have a really, really fun video coming out probably on Wednesday or Friday that I cannot wait for you to see. If you have not subscribed to my channel, what you waiting on? Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I mean, who you gonna find that's gonna do this video no matter where they are? Only me, only me, only me, okay? So I'm so glad that you're here. Remember, this is all a journey. Let's do it together. I'll see you next time, friend.